Hello, everybody.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Good morning, good evening, good night, good day, wherever you are. Welcome to our session on knowledge creation and innovation. And today we will be meeting Christoph and speaking about patents. I can introduce Christoph, but Christoph, I'll give
Yes,
you
I will. Let me say a few words about
Vincent,
Christoph. Yes,
please.
thank you. Thank you,
Okay.
Moya. Great.
Vincent, as
So,
always, is the one who brings it. No, not who you said that will bring. I'll bring someone else, and he always is absolutely correct. Yes, please, Vincent.
thank you, Moya. Yeah, so it's a great pleasure to have Christoph with us today. I had the opportunity to meet Christoph. I don't know, it must be around 10 years ago now. I was doing some collaboration with UGA, the University of Grenoble-Alpes, on a project related to creativity, and I had the great chance and privilege to meet Christoph, who has been a very strong supporter, and and he will explain all the work he has done on connecting, knowledge and innovation. So he's the founder and the CEO of Technometrics, or TKM, and he has developed over the years many tools and platforms and work with many organizations worldwide, also helping them to innovate. What I like to call knowledge-based innovation, but maybe Christoph will call it differently. So he's a good and close friend of mine from the Grenoble area in the southern part of France, in beautiful mountains. And so we are very happy and delighted to have you with us, Christoph. So the screen is yours.
Thank you, Vincent. Thank you, Moya, and I'm really happy also to be part of this session this afternoon. So the idea, as Vincent just said, is to talk about the connection between knowledge and creativity, and we'll have a specific focus on patents, but beyond the specific item that is a patent, and then we'll really shortly remind what is a patent. But the idea is, more generally speaking, it's all about scientific and technological knowledge that can be found around the world through patents, scientific papers, collaborative projects, and so on. So let's start this session here. Just a few words about TKM, but you said, Vincent, we develop software and services with a highly team of analysts and experts, all with a PhD level, and they're not so far, and they're part of this session, by the way, this afternoon. So I have no way I can say stupid things. My bad. So the workshop objective, as I understood the mission by Vincent and Moya, is to explore relationship between patent and creative process, to stimulate to see how it can stimulate innovation and creativity, and maybe to share with you some tools and techniques and let's say tool by the end of this session, and hopefully we'll have a Q&A session later on. So maybe, Moya, you can launch the first question on the poll, just to have it running. Just to remember and remind you what is a patent. First, patent is a legal protection. It's an exclusive right that is granted to an inventor, a team of inventors, or an organization. It's limited in time, and you have key requirements such as demonstrating the novelty and non-obviousness of the kind of techniques and technology you're claiming for. Just a quick look on the numbers. As you can see, in the last 20, 30 years, the number of patents have been rising really sharply in the last 30 years. And with among these countries, the trajectory of China, that made governmental policy of being first country in patent application worldwide. So they managed to do that by the year 2009, 2010, and you can see that now if you go to patent literature, more than 60% of what you will have to go through will be probably outside China. Just as for the history, the birth and evolution of patent rights, the first historical record of a patent is as long as old as, and maybe Vincent can remember that, Florence in 1421, because he's so experienced. With that guy, Brunelleschi, that was granted an exclusive right to manufacture and use this boat with the hosting gear. At that time, the protection he had, the temporary protection and monopoly he had on his invention was only 3 years, when you know probably that now it's more or less 20 years. It's at least 20 years for a regular patent, and can be a little bit more for some pharmaceutical molecules and specialties, for example. And as you see on the right, the United States of America, they had a specific amendment on their constitution early in 1787, promoting that the goal of that article would be to promote the progress of science and useful art. So when we tackle the first question, are patents useful to help and to foster innovation and creativity? If we go back to the history of patent, they were, from the very beginning of the patent, they were aiming at fostering, promoting the progress of science, human knowledge, and useful arts.
I want to stop you for a minute, because
sure.
We are asking the people, please answer the poll that is now on the screen. Have you ever read a patent?
Okay, thank you. Okay, what can you find if you go through a patent? You can find the title of the invention, the field of invention, the background, a summary, the abstract, a brief description and drawings if there are any, a detailed description, and the claims. The claims is definitely the most important part of the patent. It's where the assignee will describe what specifically he revendicates as an invention, as a patent. You will find the assignee data, name of the organization, country, location, and so on, the list of inventors, which is important when you use also patent literature to draw a competitive mapping, landscaping, or if you search for partners, using patent and more generally speaking, scientific papers also to identify some key opinion leaders with who you could be getting in touch to have some collaboration about their fields of expertise. This is a way you can find also some really interesting people. So as we can see this afternoon, we have 60% of people among the session that have never read a patent. So thank you for that feedback, because that helps me to go through the next slide. Just to remember and remind you.
You want me to initiate the second poll already?
Yes, sure. Thank you, Maria.
Okay, so let's stop for a minute and ask the people who has already drafted or filed a patent as an inventor. And that's more challenging.
Absolutely.
That's among the 40%, of course. That have
yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So let's wait a minute. We have 2 people who answered. 5.
So many inventors with us this afternoon.
7. We'll take another few seconds.
Sure.
10 people answered. Let's wait half a minute, and then we'll end the poll, and we'll see the results, and you can continue.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we have 16 people, and I'm sharing the results now.
Mm-hmm.
We see that 16 have answers that
filled,
they have
yeah.
already answers that they have drafted or filed a patent as an inventor.
As an inventor. Okay, so 1/3, 1/2 of the audience this afternoon. So that's good.
Yes.
That's interesting. So the introduction will not be long anyway. Do you have to share the results?
Yes, I can share the results, but I don't see the answers. I don't know why. It's a short answer.
Okay.
I'm trying to share.
Okay,
Who has,
16 people, 16 people.
yes,
this afternoon.
there's just only, I can see here only the answer, not the details. Some problem with the Zoom itself.
Okay.
So that's what we have here today.
Okay, so I suggest we move on, if that's okay for you.
Of course.
Okay, sure. So, as I said, patents do have a dual nature. First, it's a protection mechanism that will secure the exclusive right for an inventor or an organization to secure its monopoly on exploiting the technology. This legal shield definitely can encourage investment in R&D. If you take the example of the pharmaceutical industry, for example, it costs up to $1 billion to go through all the steps, clinical trials, and so on, before you can have a product, a molecules on the market. So that is to say, if once you have reached the market with your molecule, and you've been through all the process of testing the product and the molecules, if when you are in the market, anyone else can compete with you and copy your product and your therapy and somehow make a competition to you on the market, obviously this will not be economically possible for big companies to finance such an effort in R&D. So somehow the patenting business is helping them to have, let's say, 8 to 10 years on the market where they do not have competitors with the same molecules and the same patents. Obviously, you can have competing technology, other way to address other therapeutics to address the same disease, of course. But on that very specific invention, then the company will be let's say, quiet for a couple of years. But also patent, and this is the most interesting for our subject this afternoon, patents are public information. So they can feed any kind of creativity, innovation, problem-solving processes within your company, within your organization, and this is where the patent is really useful for the creativity to my mind. Just in a short words or short comics, just to remember what is the patent for. As you see, okay, you have invented the wheel. So the idea is that for a period of 20 years, 3 years in the Florence Republic, as we saw earlier, but for a period of time, you will have the monopoly to manufacture, to sell, maybe to license the technology to someone else, but you will have the monopoly on the invention. And on the counterpart, you will share with the other human on Earth, you will share the knowledge so that they can improve and develop new technology and so on. So this is basically the nature of patents. So in terms of creativity, patents can definitely have a positive effect. As I said already, they can act as an incentive for innovation. They will definitely, they are designed for helping the dissemination of knowledge, but also to help the recognition of the inventors that are cited as inventors, for example. On the counterpart, they definitely can have negative effects because they can be obstacles to collective creativity. If every company, every organization is somehow closed behind its fences and have its own property IP portfolio, it might be difficult to have an open creative innovation research. And you know that if you have some joint research with some fellow outside your company or your organization, it can be sometimes an obstacle. The cost of litigation outside is worth $1 billion, and it's going up every year. That is to say, companies are fighting each other, and sometimes academy, but more likely companies and big companies. They would fight for infringement. This is what we call the litigation risk. So it can be really costly, definitely. And once many companies have filed patent, and we use also the terms of patent thicket. That is to say, there are so many patents in one field that is no more possible for any innovators to put new thing in the field, because the territory is already mined by so many patents. So you have to find the balance when you refer to patent between protection and openness, and you have to understand this to strategically navigate through the patent ecosystem once you talk about creativity and innovation. This survey from the Kauffman Foundation is interesting because they try to demonstrate that depending on the strength of the intellectual property rights, if they are too weak, then they will have a low effect on innovation. If the IP rights are too strong, then it will restrain innovation within the company. So that is to say, you need to have a balance, right systems in terms of IP if you want to have a maximum of creativity and innovation and emulation amongst the people and amongst the organization. So you can find this this survey on the site, and all the references will be available at the end of the slides. By the way, this survey on the Harvard Business Review in 2016 was somehow referring to the Renaissance Florence, this Italian city state, and there they assumed that this system in the early 15th centuries was more efficient than the Silicon Valley in terms of patenting activity that would foster innovation. Maybe it is related to the temporary monopoly, the time period during which you will have this monopoly. But as I said, in the pharmaceutical industry, the level of investment are so high that maybe this can be discussed definitely. And this is discussed, of course, when you meet some expert in IP. So let's move on now. I will take the party of the patent can be useful for the creativity, at least as a source of information. So now you have to choose your side. Whether you think that patent will restrain innovation and be rather more like Dark Vador, or you will choose the side of Luke Skywalker if you think that patents are definitely useful and they are on the light on the right side of the light in terms of creativity. I have to say that it's my power this afternoon. I have already picked up the role of Princess Leia for the rest of this session. So patents are definitely creativity catalysts because they expose novel solutions, and they will foster, they will motivate new inventors to think differently, to think on the side of existing patent. The patent information is a structured one. As I said earlier, you have some chapters in the content of a patent where you can find really quickly what you're looking for, and it's really useful when you need to go through thousands or hundreds of patents to draw a landscape or to feed some creative process, to know that this is a structure documentation, and you can go directly to the kind of part of the patent that is useful for you. And last one is the boundary expedition, because patents will encourage you thinking and your organization thinking beyond conventional approach. For the innovators, what are the I suggest the main innovator's dilemma. If you are out of the research and you come out from the lab with a new technology, then and you want to start a business, launch a startup, whatever, or license your technology to an existing company, you have a technology that can solve problems. And if it's a raw technology, maybe it can fix so many problems that you will have to choose, and you will have to search the kind of problems that your technology is able to fix, and then to see if it's a market for your startup, for example. After that, I already mentioned that, but you need to identify who are the competing technology, who are the people who are addressing the same problem on the market, but with really different technological approaches. And also, you have to check your FTO. FTO stands for freedom to operate. It's related to the litigation risk I was referring earlier. You cannot go on the market and produce, manufacture, whatever has been already, which is part of a patent that someone has filed. So you have to check that your invention, your new product, even if you don't file any patent for yourself or for your organization, you have to check that no one else has filed a patent directly where you are standing at the moment. But you have to also to use that mapping and competitive mapping to search for technological differentiation that you will use on the market. And finally, as an innovator, you will look for customers, key opinion leaders, competitors. Who are your competitors? Directly competitors with the same technology, and your co-optitors, people that would develop some parts of the technology that maybe you can be seen as competitors, but sometimes also some partner or cooperators. So maybe you know that words of co-optitors. In the patent information, you can find many information about the technical problems to be solved for the first one. You can see what are the existing proposed solutions, what are the existing competing technology to your value proposition on the market. What are the alternative embodiment? What are the alternative conception of a product between the different actors on the market, and check you have a freedom to operate. And through the assignee data, as I said earlier, you know who are the people, who are the organization, who are the people. If you're looking for key opinion leaders in the field of medical device, for example, for diabetes, I don't know, through the research on the scientific and patent literature, definitely you will be able to identify some people maybe you should at least follow, have a watch on them, or maybe to get in touch with them for some cooperation. There are also usual creative bottlenecks in the field of innovation or creativity. The fixed ideas or the unsolved problem. We cannot solve that problem, and it's a little bit the same that with dominant thought patterns. In this industry, we've always been acting that way. In my company, the historical record of my company is that we've been doing this for so many years. Somehow it can have you blocked into thought patterns, and maybe to save you and to put you away from finding a solution to the problem you are facing at the moment. The second is that lack of adhesion. If you come with engineering teams with an idea that is too disruptive from their actual state of art, maybe it will be difficult. And there are many examples in the aerospace industry, for example, where they had to go through step by steps to make sure that the engineering and R&D team would adhere to the project of innovation. And patents is an information that help engineers to understand and to go in detail and to move forward step by step. And at the end of the day, say, okay, we think and we know step by step that how we can do that, how we can achieve that instead of saying and telling, no, it's too disruptive. And the last one is isolation between marketing and R&D. You know that informal meeting at the coffee machine when the marketing executive meets the lady in charge of the R&D, and they discuss about, and he asks, okay, tell me what you're working on, because I need to know what I will have to sell within the next 5 years. And the lady answered, no, you have to tell me what you want to sell within the next 5 years so that I know on what I should do some R&D. So maybe this guy are the bottlenecks that you already faced in your organization. So if I move on the methodology that can be used to make these patents as a useful tool for fostering innovation and creativity, we will go through 5 examples, hackathons, BSociation, trees, Seika methodology, and so on. So I'm moving on because I checking the watch also. This first example was drawn by someone that Vincent knows, of course, is Lorena Escandon, and she was working on this thesis, PhD thesis, with Patrick Coindet and comment il s'appelle
Laurent Simon.
Laurent Simon. At the ETS, okay, I forgot his name, sorry. It's in the reference, by the way. So her PhD thesis was on creativity and was focusing on how data and data analytics would foster and help some teams to be more creative. So in 2016, within the École de Technologie Supérieure, which is an engineering school in Montreal, they had this hackathon for 24 hours where students were divided into groups where they have to go and to find some creative solution to some challenges that were offered and proposed by companies. So they split the group of students into two teams, in two parts. Some teams were working the very traditional approach with brainstorming. They were working with no specialized tool on nor data supporting, not looking at the science or pattern or whatever. And the other part of the group was fed with data enhanced creativity. That is to say that Lorena and some fellow here at TKM, they were answering the question, any request from these teams on the right that would come up to them and say, well, I'm looking for what has been patented, what kind of research have been done in that specific field. So Lorena and the analysts at TKM, they would feed the group with that answer, and then they go back to their creative process and so on. And the result was quite amazing. And there is a paper, you will find the reference. There is a paper where she showed that this group that were data powered, I would say, data augmented, they generated up to 30 and 40% more ideas. And most interesting to me is that these ideas were somehow less influenced by the trending technologies. Let's put it another way. Most of the innovation on the left, they were digital. It was an app on a tablet, on a smartphone, and so on. It's the air of it's the fashion. It's really fashion in 2016. On that part of the group, they would generate an amount of ideas that were, technically speaking, a lot more diverse than the trending thing. So that was interesting, and that you can find the details on her paper. So the idea is to go through data collection, patent analysis, then this patent analysis was somehow boost their idea generation process, and then help them to design some solution that were really different in a greater number, but also really different from the other group. So this experimentation demonstrated that human creativity combined with data could produce more innovative, more creative solutions. So that was interesting to mention, I believe. really related to what we've seen with Lorena and her PhD thesis is the CK method. That is a method developed by Armand Hatchuel and Robert Weil in 2005 in Paris, France. And they provide the theoretical framework for analyzing the creative process. And they divide the space in two parts. There is one part, the C part, which is the concept, the creativity part, where ideas are unknown. They can be unrealistic. You're some kind of in a utopical world. And the idea is that to expand this creativity part, this creativity space in the process of generating ID. And how it works is that by iteration, they go back and forth between this creative part and the second space, which is knowledge, which is state of art, existing knowledge, existing technology, to validate what is possible and not possible. And their ID and their method demonstrate, and all their work for many years demonstrate that innovation and radical innovation can emerge from systematic interaction between these concepts on one end and knowledge on the other end spaces. So I've said that already, so I'll skip that slide and go to some examples. Oh, yes, maybe to mention that on the creative part, on the C space, the useful tool that can be used at that time are any kind of brainstorming techniques and so on. The dissociation, we'll talk that later, also design fiction, design thinking, and so on. On the K space, on the knowledge space, the tool are, and the techniques are state of art, megatrends analysis, megatrends watch, benchmarks, and so on. So you see how the tools can also be very different depending on if you're working on the C space, on the K space. So you have to define the initial concept on which you want to work, and then you start this iteration process. And then this methodology will help you to create a lot more concepts, so declination of the initial concept, new ideas, and radical ideas. If you take an example of a mapping, I think, Vincent, you participated in that event in Grenoble in 2016 or 2017 in Grenoble during the Winter School of Creativity. We were partnering with, and the idea at the time, and during this workshop organized by Gilles Garel and Marie-Laurence Faron-Cazon from Grenoble University, the idea is to find innovative, radical solution for enhancing the experience of the crowd in a stadium. So let's take an example of what kind of knowledge some teams were on the K space to look for information. And they were looking for emotions, crowd effects, stimulations. So there were different keywords that they used to grab some information, go through the papers, go through the patents very quickly, just to have this to move forward. And they went to, for example, they detected that there was something interesting about the olfactive stimuli combined with emotion that was shown and demonstrated through neuroscience work in the hospital, for example. And back and forth on that example, they came back with the perfume of victory. So maybe that if my team is leading the game, then there will be a specific perfume. The history doesn't tell what kind of sheet perfume it is when your team is losing the game, but that's another story. So this to illustrate that you start from one C0 concept and you say, okay, if you want to start from enhancing the experience of the crowd stadium, there is no chance, on my belief, that you will end up by the end of the afternoon with this kind of idea of developing the perfume of victory. This is possible because of this way back and forth between knowledge. Okay, enhancing the experience of a crowd means what are the crowd reactions? Sociologists, would definitely have conducted some survey on that. So let's have a look. Let's have a quick look on their work. What about stimulation? What about emotion? And if you go deeper and deeper, maybe you can come back with novel ideas on the left side of the CK method. Another methodology that can be used and really easy to use is the biassociation. When two worlds, two different universe can be technological field, it can be many different things, plans, domains, reference, and you just smash these two different worlds and you observe what is being created in terms of new idea, novel idea at the intersection of these two plans. The effect is known in terms of art creation, in terms of comics. There is a famous Mercedes advertising on YouTube. You can find it's a marvel of use of biassociation with a comic effect at the end. It can be the case in new technology and new business model. New business model, if you look at Uber, for example, Uber, they are not starting from the business of transporting people. They are people from software platforms and smartphone. So if you go to the interaction, to the intersection between the world of software and mobile app to the world of public transportation, then it comes to be the very first offer of Uber on the market a couple of years ago. If you take an example of a biassociation in technology, a right example is the lab on a chip, which is the intersection of the domain of microfluidics, the technology of microfluidics, and the knowledge in the terms of biology. And it gives this lab on a chip technologies that is well known now for offering new diagnostic laboratories, very small laboratories, pocket-sized device that can be used for diagnoses, for water, for healthcare, and so on. So this is an example where you have two technological domains that are definitely not related. The people working in these two fields do not have the same knowledge. They do not come from the same engineering or universities. But once you just smash the two domains at the intersection, something interesting, something innovative can come up. We've drawn this experimentation on biassociation with our fellow at HEC Montréal, Patrick Collandette, Laurent Simon, with Polytechnique Montréal, and the CRIAC with the aerospace cluster in Quebec. And we've done this project with them in 2016. And the idea was to try to identify what would be the outcomes of the AI on the aerospace industry. As you can see, we collected and we grabbed 180,000 documents, patent papers, and so on, based on the keywords coming from aerospace, defining all the keywords to define the aerospace industry on the left, and all the keywords that would define the AI industry on the right. And then we identified weak signals, emerging stuff, outlier things that are not in the average of the production of the literature, and then we match these weak signals with some stimuli. As you can say, a pencil, a cookie, a house, whatever, and we match this weak signal with this external stimuli, and we came up with 50 new concept identified. And that is funny because 2016, it's 2017, 5 to 6 years after this experiment, this work, this study in Montreal, some of the concept we came up with at the end of that project, that were, some of them were likely to be really innovative and maybe science fictional, if you see what I mean, never to be occurring soon. Some of them, 2 or 3 of them, they occurred and they start to be visible on the market on the technological experimentation. And one example is an airport where the local comment on dit, contrôle aérien.
Air control.
Air control, traffic air control. Thank you. Air traffic control. The local air traffic control would be delivered by a team of air traffic controller located 150 kilometers away. So when we designed that in 2017, the guys in Montreal say, well, okay, that's a funny idea, but not in my lifetime. Okay, 5 years later, London City Airport, they started to look at that possible technology. And even in France, they started in 2024, in 24, sorry, they started this experimentation. So that is to say that sometimes when you come up with ideas that you think that maybe are really fictional, maybe the reality can grab you more quickly than you would think. So last methodology is the TRIZ method. I don't know if you've heard about this methodology because it's been developed in the 20th century, but this guy Altshuler, and the idea is he went through the analysis of thousands of patents in order to identify some regular pattern. This regular pattern, he put them into a matrix. This matrix is the matrix where you have some criteria that you cannot combine them. So let's go to an example. If you want, for example, to have this example on an aircraft wing, and you want to have a design that is more strong, but without adding weight, because strength and weight are typically one of the intersection of that particular matrix I was referring. This is the matrix used basically from the TRIZ method. So you have one parameter somewhere here that is weight or speed, and there is a contradictory effect that would be weight. Okay, so the idea is how to strengthen the aircraft wing without extra weight. So then the matrix would help you to identify what are the principles that Altshuler identified as kind of innovative principle that can solve that contradiction. Then you will go and read some generic patents. Generic mean not related to any aircraft wing or aerospace field. And you will look for generic solutions that are being used, that have been claimed in other fields, and see how you can transfer this in the domain of interest, in this case, which is the aircraft wing design. And for example, you see that on the right, that you can use honeycomb sandwich core, you can use a glass fiber reinforced instead of metal pieces that would strengthen the aircraft wing without adding weight. So this TRIZ method is really based on patent analysis, defining this matrix and the 40 principle that is behind, that is at the intersection of all these matrix. You can see the principle on the right of these figures. And then to go in other domain and see what are the generic solution for that particular contradiction. And maybe they can be inspiring me for a specific solution on my domain that probably I would not have any chance to find without that step back that this TRIZ method is offering. So this is a really powerful methodology, but also we have to say it's a really complex one, and not so many people use them in the field of companies. So you can search for some easier or easy way to do TRIZ method, and of course it can be really useful. Just to finish this session this afternoon and leave some time for the questions, if you have any, I will share with you three tools that I always have in my toolbox. Patent mapping or landscaping, you understood already that is something that is really important if you want to use the patent as a fuel for your innovation or creative process. And two other tools will describe. Whether you work in a field of technology, of industry, where people feel patent or not, I think it's a good discipline to have a really usual and really regular watch on what's going on in the field of patent. For that, you have to collect some data outside the database, Google Patent, Espacenet, or some other database that are available on the market, so that this data collection will be made through keywords. You saw this example on AI or aerospace. All the keywords which combined together will describe the field of aeronautic, the field of space industry, for example. So you will gather these keywords and use them combined to grow and collect a set of data outside a database. You will not go through a USPTO or through Espacenet or any base, just looking one patent, but white patent. You cannot be efficient if you do that. So you build a set of keywords, then you go and grab the data, and then you use, for example, some kind of visual representation like the one on the right, so that you can identify what's going on in terms of temporality, in terms of technology. As you see, the patents or the document, they would aggregate through their semantic content. So maybe it can help you to identify what are the technology, what are the fields of application. So you will build in a couple of hours, using that mapping or landscaping tools or approach, you will build in a couple of hours some kind of a strategic intelligence, comprehensive vision of what's going on, how this is divided, who are the actors, what are they doing, and so on and so on. So with that analysis, you can also identify some, the blue ocean strategy in terms of business model, in terms of startups, but you can do the same with the patent mapping and identifying where there are some gaps, where maybe there are some places, some place available for filling new patent. So this patent mapping, doing that on a regular basis, even if you do not fill patent within your organization or your business, can be somehow a way to have your brain oxygenated the right way on what's going on in the field of innovation, and maybe what kind of sparks that it can start in your way of thinking, innovation, and creativity in your organization. Once you have to work with a team, even with an engineering team, and using information out of patents, one difficult part is to be able to read a patent. So Jan de Kermadec, a friend of mine, he invented this. It's not a methodology, it's rather more a language. The tree of means, which is a tool for, let's say, visualizing the patent through a scheme and not through the lecture of this kind. This example is it's an existing patent for a device for lifting products like pickles, especially. And on the right, if you read the patent, this is exactly what you will have to go through. Basically, I guess that even the inventor that is at the origin of this invention, when he go back and you read the patent that has been filled on his name, he probably will not recognize his child. So Jan de Kermadec is suggesting this approach to represent this text on the right by a scheme, by a graph, where basic parts of the patents that you can find in the claims of the patent are linked together. So this device is composed with a platter, with a gripping stem. This gripping stem is characterized by a handle, and maybe on the yellow boxes, you can define the characteristic of the handle, of the gripping stem, and then you will be more and more specific on defining your innovation within your patent. So first of all, if you want your engineering team to be creative while reading external patent, this will be really helpful, and even to have people from marketing, from other departments within the company to join the discussion, because they can be creative with this kind of scheme and graph, and they will not, definitely not, if you start your meeting with that kind of text, definitely. And once you have these patents depicted and visualized this way, it would be a lot easier maybe to pick one characteristic, one piece of the invention of your competitor, for example, and to see how different you can specify this particular part, this particular characteristic of the competing patent, so that by chance you can, by iteration, end up with a solution that is technically different enough from this competing patent, so that you could have your own patent or have a right to produce a similar device for lifting products and condiments without being blocked and without infringing this particular patent. So the tree of means tool, when it comes to looking at patents and being creative, starting from patent information, is definitely a killer language. Simplifying understanding, enhance innovation, of course, and better patent application, because then you will move forward from the blocking patent enough so that your patent to be filled has more chances to be agreed than if you do not do that way. So it's time for the conclusion. So maybe Moria, you can send the last poll, please. On my point of view,
before I send the last one, I want to be a bit disappointed, because now I saw the details of the previous answer, and when I maybe I can share it for a minute.
Sure.
So you see that people answered, but most of them had a negative answer. So
on what?
We were a bit too positive. You know what? I'll copy it into the chat. Just a minute, and we can all view it. Here we go into the Zoom chat.
Okay.
Okay, so people can see it. You can also see it and put it on the screen. We see a lot of no, no, no. And now I will start the last poll.
Okay, no to the question that was, who has already filled a patent as an inventor? So, okay, I understand.
Oh, I see that. I don't know why, but I can't launch it. Let's see why it ended it.
Okay, it's no big deal, Moria, because the idea is to ask you, to ask the audience, if you have picked up a role between Dark Vador and Luke Skywalker. Would you discuss that? Would patents be more useful for creativity and innovation, or on the other end is innovation killer? So if you would have to choose your acting character.
Dark Luke, please write in the WhatsApp.
Okay, absolutely.
Not in the WhatsApp, in the
chat.
In the chat.
Absolutely.
Dark or Luke? Can you remind everyone what's Dark and what's Luke? What do they represent?
Dark Vador, on my proposal, Dark Vador would be rather more negative on the fact that the patent would definitely kill creativity and innovation, and Luke Skywalker would say, no, patent, and specifically patent information, is useful to foster and fuel a creative process. Both. That's a funny one. I love that answer.
I think that's life.
Absolutely. And I remember I'm Princess Leia, so no one can pick up that character. So just to end up with my conclusion and recommendation is that, to my point of view, and we at TKM, we strongly believe that we've been doing that for more than 20 years now. Scientific literature, including patent, is definitely a creative booster. If you have to use these different tools, methodology we've been through this afternoon, let's have your intuition speak. Let's say adapt the methodology. Okay, the TRIZ method is really complex. I do not know anyone nowadays. 15 years ago it was different, but I do not know anyone now that still use that methodology. So don't hesitate to adapt and to adapt the methodology to your need. And whatever you do, whether you file patent, whether you are part of the 16 people earlier or not, if you come up to the market with innovative product, solution, technology, process, materials, whatsoever, you always have to check your freedom to operate. Make sure that even if you don't file any patent in your life, it's not your strategy, it's not your culture, it's okay. But just check if you go to the market with some innovative stuff that someone else has not filed a patent on which you're working, with which you are infringing, because it can be really deadly mistake. We've seen in the history of TKM, we see so many startups that were dead before to reach the market because they had not checked that in advance. So that's it for me. If you have any questions,
let's take a question.
Yeah, sure.
People, we have 1-2 minutes for questions before I wrap up and we go to next week's session.
There was a comment from Martin. Martin, you want to share
Yes.
your thought?
Slowly and in English. I know it's tempting to do it in French. Martin? Okay. So
It's a comment on patent can also serve as a starting point for innovation, c'est ça? This one?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, correct,
and there's another
yes.
question after. So if you want to answer this comment, and then we have Guillermo Calvi raising the hand for another question.
Yes, sure. In one word, with Martin comments, and definitely agree with him, because the aviation industry, we are well placed at TKM to know that they feed their innovation process also looking at what is going on in the train industry, in the automotive industry, in the medical device industry. So looking at what's going on in terms of technology, in terms of innovation, even this is what we call at TKM open watch. When you're not only looking and watching what your competitors are doing, what the scientific academic labs in your domain are doing, just to be aware of what's going on in your very domain, but also sometimes to have this look outside the box is definitely useful for any kind of industry. I cannot agree more, Martin.
Wonderful. Let's take one question from Guillermo Calvi, please.
Thank
please
you.
Raise your voice.
Thank you very much, Moria. Thank you very much, Christophe. That's an extremely interesting presentation. Now my question is the one I put in the chat. I see the TRIZ methodology seems extremely interesting to dissect and identify the level of innovation of a proposed solution. Do you see this as a methodology that can be used in reverse also? So, for example, we have a challenge to overcome, and we want to identify and rank the characteristics that might lead to an innovative solution to this challenge.
Definitely, yes. And this is the basis of trees, is if I'm blocked without capacity to find a solution to my very specific domain, identifying some patents that are addressing the same kind of generic problem, and do the reverse engineering, which is a really important word that you mentioned. I agree with you. Doing some reverse engineering on that patent that are not in my domain, understand what these people in the train industry, for example, what they've done, how they've done this can fuel my capacity to come back to my aviation or aerospace dilemma, for example, and to come up with new approach to the same problem, and then to come up with some radical innovation. Definitely, yes.
Thank you very much, Christophe. It's really interesting. Thank you.
But it's a complex methodology, so that's why we promote some kind of not alternative, but some combined methodology, which is not as complex as the use of the whole matrix I show you on the slides. That can be sometimes a little bit frightening, but definitely the approach at the idea definitely is really really interesting and powerful. We can witness that.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Christophe.
Thanks to you.
I've learned a lot, and I'm
Thank you
sure
very
that we
much,
all
Christophe.
have.
Thanks to you. If
Yeah.
you want to keep in touch, don't hesitate to flash the QR code and to have this debate and discussion further in the next days and weeks, and with a lot of pleasure. So thank you, Moria and Vincent, for inviting us this afternoon.
Thanks to you.
Thank you so much. And dear people, if we want to think about something positive that makes us feel calm, better, so serendipity is a wonderful way to think about it. What it has to do with the creativity, that we will be learning next week, and our host will be no less than Vincent himself. Yay!
Yeah.
So see you all next session.
Yes,
and
and-
thank you for joining today. Yes,
And
please.
be careful next week. There is a summertime, the change of timing. So the
Yes.
session might be 1 hour earlier or for you. So you don't want to
Thank you.
miss my presentation. So
Thank you. Yes, again, so I will send out a notice an hour before. I'll try to remember. Vincent, help me, and I'll help you again. And we
Cool.
have a shared memory. But yes, people in some countries, there is a summer time zone. We are straight 12 UTC, noon UTC. So whoever has a time zone goes 1 hour later, probably. Please check your calendars. Have a
Thank
great week. Bye.
thank you again,
Thank you
Christophe.
so
Bye-bye.
much.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Are you going to leave this session open, Moria?
I promised that I'd do it. Yes. Just let me stop the recording.